Hi, good afternoon everyone. Now I get the headphones. It's great to be here and great to have a chance to speak to you all today. I'm not going to talk for too long. In fact, I'd rather talk for a shorter amount of time and see whether there are any questions out there, which I hope you all will have a lot of. So very quickly, my name is Paul Pacifico. I'm the CEO of the Saudi Music Commission. The Saudi Music Commission is the entity under the Ministry of Culture with responsibility for developing the music sector here in Saudi Arabia. It's one of 11 cultural commissions, including, so we have sister commissions like the, are you asking me to talk less loudly? Oh, it's not me? Oh, him, okay. We sit alongside 11 or 10 other sibling commissions. So there's one for film, one for theatre and performing arts, one for visual art, culinary arts, literature translation, publishing, etc. So there are a lot of entities out there under this umbrella of the Ministry of Culture helping to develop the sector here. So before I start going into what I'm going to talk to you about in earnest, I'd love to ask the tech crew at the back if they can play a short video just to give you a sense of some of the activity we're involved in. Thank you. Great, thank you. So as you can see from the video, and as I think many of you will know from having worked in the kingdom here, there's both looking backwards and looking forwards going on. We have a view to culture and traditional music, and we also have a big emphasis on innovation in the future. So the Music Commission is looking at all aspects of the market, whether that's artists, whether that's talent development, education, structuring the market, regulation, licensing, as well as helping support the commercial industry. So we're about 5 years in from a pretty standing start. Up until around 5-6 years ago, music was forbidden in public. You wouldn't have had this array of concerts, certainly not mixed gender programs or mixed gender audiences in the way that we now have today. And the development of that market, just by way of illustration, we've now reached, or we're projected to reach this year in terms of music streaming alone, more than $100 million US. In fact, I think the latest projection is 110 million US dollars. So this is an extremely fast growing market. The interesting thing about the Saudi market is that it's very high growth. It's also very high value in terms of average revenue per user, which differentiates it from many other emerging markets globally. As you'll probably know from your professional lives, there are events here at all scales and they continue to grow. There's an awful lot happening at the top end. But one of the things I think about is that the market does need further diversification. So again, a thought for the day, I would encourage you as you sort of mix and mingle around here and you go away and think about what is the next step for the to add value to the Saudi cultural and entertainment landscape. For me, it would be a diversification of offering, particularly starting to find reinforcement at the grassroots end. If we're going to achieve long-term sustainability in the market, we have to think very carefully about a talent pipeline and the escalator of talent. And for me, that goes for on-stage talent and off-stage talent, so both creative and technical skills and roles. We have to really have a mind towards those. We have seen over the last 12 months some really interesting initiatives to diversify the offering in terms of musical genres. So I think in the early days of the music offering here, there was a lot of electronic dance music. That really soaked up a lot of the bandwidth. Whereas last year there was the first Riyadh International Jazz Festival and also an International Opera Festival, both of which were sold out, both of which really point to a high degree of cultural curiosity in Saudi audiences, which again is not something to take for granted. That's something quite special, I think, about the Saudi market, that willingness for Saudis to go and attend events where they're not quite sure what the music's going to be, but they trust that it's going to be great and they'll have a good time. We also hosted last year KCON, a very significant scale festival of K-pop. Again, hugely well attended and incredible to see thousands of young Saudis singing along in Korean to K-pop teams, many of whom will have learned the language online through YouTube, through Duolingo, who knows. But fandom is fandom, and fans find a way of connecting with artists they love. So again, I'm very optimistic, and I'm a big believer in the opportunity here to diversify the cultural offering. So both in terms of scale of offering and in terms of breadth of content, I think there's opportunities in both directions. So reinforcing the talent pipeline is crucial. In that regard, what can I update you on in terms of outlook for this year? What's coming that might be of interest to the kind of businesses that would be here at the Saudi Light and Sound Show? I think music continues to become better and better established and embedded in the daily cultural lives of citizens here in Saudi, and that's really through an access to all approach, obviously under the auspices of the Vibrant Society pillar of Vision 2030. A few examples of that in terms of what the Music Commission is involved with. There is a new cultural scholarship program. It's a global program for Saudis wanting to study abroad in cultural areas. There have been many very successful international scholarship programs in Saudi Arabia over the years, but none of them really focused on cultural skills. In terms of the workforce here, the program is based on the fact that if a Saudi is accepted by an international cultural institution that's recognized here in Saudi, the Saudi government through this program will pay for the scholarship, but also accommodation, everything else needed for those Saudis to go study abroad. So again, in this emphasis of diversifying the talent pool, finding that next generation of talent, the opportunities are here to grow that in terms of the professional market. But also this year, for example, we have music going into kindergarten. So music's going into public schools for the first time this year. Last year we entered 26,500 kindergarten teachers into a training program. 7,500 of them have already qualified and completed that program. So the first 1.4 million Saudi children will start having access to music in public schools for the first time this year, which is phenomenal. That is a groundbreaking achievement. We're already planning music for elementary schools. That will roll out very rapidly, and the plan at the moment is to have music compulsory through middle school, elective in high school. And at the tertiary education level, we're working with the first 4 faculties in the kingdom who are developing arts programs. And also work is underway to launch the Culture University, which is the first university here that will be under the Ministry of Culture rather than the Ministry of Education, and it will have several parallel specialist schools, including a higher music institute alongside an architecture school, visual arts school, etc., fashion school. So this is a really exciting opportunity and a very dynamic approach to education of the future. One of the things I love about working here is that you don't have to break things to make new things. It's a very, very open market. It's a very blank sheet of paper. So imagine being a music undergraduate at the Higher Music Institute and being offered the opportunity to take a module at the fashion school, or a module at the visual arts school, or a module at the film school. These are things that creative institutions overseas in mature markets would love to do but find it very hard to do. Here we're starting from scratch, so we can do these kind of very creative things to prepare the talent pool and the creative workforce for tomorrow. In terms of the professional market, the collective management organisation is well underway in terms of its development here. This means there will be a sea change in licensing, protection of IP, and therefore the remuneration of the creative economy. So until or unless we can get creators properly recognised and paid for their work, it's unrealistic to think that there would be a sustainable creative economy here in Saudi. That's changing. It's under the auspices of the Saudi Authority for Intellectual Property, with the Music Commission acting as the subject matter expert for music, so I sit on the steering committee for that, and that will be a seismic change, a shift in the landscape towards a viable, economically as well as creative, sustainable future here. Part of our work at the Music Commission is in that licensing and regulatory function, and this year will be a big year in terms of refreshing and reinforcing our work in that area, which I think will give greater clarity, greater certainty to businesses. And clarity and certainty for business is a great incentive for investment. Nobody likes uncertainty, and part of our job is to help people establish themselves and grow here. That'll be a big area of focus. In that regard, this year we've been able to develop a specialist team that is specifically there to support the growth and solidification, if you like, the crystallization of the supply chain and access to equipment here in Saudi Arabia. So as of this year, the Music Commission will be much better placed to support you all, your businesses, from either around the world or here domestically in Saudi, to really set up and grow those businesses and make sure that we're joining the dots to get the right equipment into the right people's hands at the right time to develop their careers, grow their businesses and do it. In terms of next step priorities, for me, really one of the priorities for the remainder of this year and going into next year is going to be making sure that we join the dots between different ministries. We have the Ministry of Culture, where we sit, we have the Ministry of Investment, we have the Ministry of Commerce and Trade. I want to make sure that we're doing our bit to reach out to them and join the dots between the various attraction incentive schemes that they run, the pathway to establishing and growing businesses here in Saudi Arabia, and the needs of the music market, both for professional needs and for the retail market. You know, we know that there's very little retail here yet. I think also we know that we need to make access to affordable equipment possible for Saudi families where they want their kids to learn music, and unless we can solve some of these problems and make it easier, we're going to inhibit the growth of that next generation of talent. And for me, it's all about how that journey starts. So the music in kindergarten is absolutely essential to kick that off in a way that's positive, where young kids, their first experience of learning music is a positive one. It's not a dogmatic one. Going up to their lives, whether it's grabbing a guitar, starting to play with music production software at home, whatever your first experience of getting your hands on music-related activity, I want that to lead somebody into the thought that they can have a creative career that's viable. And we start to get family support around this idea that, you know, if my kid wants to do something creative, I want to support them in that, because there is a career path for them that does lead to viable jobs. And this is, I think, an important piece of work that we have to do on the advocacy front to really get families on board with the idea. And this isn't a problem that's unique to Saudi. This is a challenge in lots of places in the world. In my old job in the UK, you're getting families to support kids with creative ambitions was always a challenge, and it's a constant bit of work. And I think everybody in this room has a role to play to reinforce that. And I know we'll be reaching out to leaders in our sector to say, come on, we want you to stand up. Whoops. That was slick, sorry. I can't hear myself now, but we want people in our sector, leaders in our sector, to tell their story, to stand on a platform to sort of become role models, to show families that there are real careers, real businesses and real opportunities in the creative, sort of cultural and events sectors. I think at this point I'd love to hand over to some of you and see whether you have any questions. I've got about 5 minutes left, and I want to definitely make sure I use that time to hear from you, not just talk at you, but understand some of your questions, hear from you any feedback and any advice you might have in terms of what we're doing in our work and where our priorities should best lie. So any questions or thoughts? Yes, there's one down at the front. I think there's a microphone on its way for you. If you just maybe introduce yourself, say where you're from, so I get a sense of how best to help answer your question.
Yes. Hi. My name is Yasmin. I work here in the industry as a producer. I've lived here most of my life, but I studied in Canada. So I know that you talked about a lot of allowing the community to finally have some growth, like from bottom up. Is there, like in the works, regional theaters, community centers, those kinds of things, or are we sticking mostly to institutions that already exist?
That's a great question. I think the answer is kind of both. So I'll give you an example. We have a really important initiative that we're involved in called Saudi's Ruq, which works with UNESCO and also with colleagues in the Theatre and Performing Arts Commission and others, where we're going around all 13 regions of the kingdom documenting for the first time intangible cultural heritage. So that means going and recording folk music out. For example, we just completed Abha and Asir region. So in Abha there's a community centre, performance space that really needed investment, it needed love, it needed doing up. So as part of the programme, we invested in that centre. So we left behind a sustainable legacy in an existing structure that just needed a bit more reinforcement. And our hope again is that our involvement in that region left a sustainable legacy, and we'll continue to do that around the kingdom. Kingdom, as well as, I mean, I would love to see a network of small venues spring up. I'd love to see opportunities for, grassroots, bottom-up creativity to find their path also for Saudi emerging artists. It's not enough if there are only 3 or 4 places to play and you can only do 3 or 4 concerts a year. That's not going to really develop you as an artist, as a performer. We need to see that part of the market evolve so that young artists can go on tour around the whole kingdom, if not the GCC, really start to establish themselves and get used to being on stage, make the stage their second home or even their first home. So I hope that helps answer your question.
Yes, thank you. Music to my ears.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hey Paul, my name's Kareem. I'm a guitarist. I'm doing sales at Media Pro. This disconnected. Anyways, I'm doing sales at Media Pro. I have a music business degree from Florida. I'm Sudanese Syrian. I live in Saudi. Kind of complicated. And my question is, you were talking about the uncertainty of in this ecosystem and so on. So I just wonder what kind of things do you look at to ensure pulling off a successful niche concerts or anything. If you want to bring a new genre into Saudi, what kind of things do you want to make sure will work before you do what you do?
Great, thank you for the question. I'd probably give you an answer in 2 ways. One is it's really interesting to look at what some people have already done with niche genres. We know in the global digital market, global niches can be specialists, but they're global niches, and so therefore they can be really interesting to develop sustainable careers in. I point to people like Gigi Arabia, who's developed Heavy Arabia, an amazing support structure and network for the Saudi metal scene. So there's a fantastic Saudi metal scene. Who knew? I have a great Saudi metal playlist on my Spotify now from Gigi. So these things are possible. Now the question then is, how do you know? How do you experiment and how do you implement them? And there I would agree with you. It's complicated right now, and it's a little bit difficult, I think, for grassroots movements to evolve because they don't know how to do it. They don't know what the rules are. They don't know where the spaces are. And I think that's where the Music Commission is here to help. So I would say, my team is there to help support artist development, sector growth. So I'd really encourage anybody thinking about just trying to make a go of anything in music at any scale. Please, we're there for you. Reach out, talk to us. We'll help you in terms of plotting the roadmap, understanding who you need to speak to about what. And also our job, much as we're a catalytic entity as well as a regulator. So part of my job, I think, is to challenge regulation and to say, does that regulation help grow the market or does it inhibit the market? Do we want to grow the market or do we want to inhibit the market in different areas in different ways? These are really important questions that you never answer fully. You're always challenging them and going around the circle. So I think there is more work to do. And again, my team is very, very engaged in that work to try to make sure we have the best possible landscape to balance, the benefits of regulation with the benefits of free access and the pros and cons of each. Thank you. I think I'm out of time unless there's maybe one last very quick question. I don't know. I'll keep talking until I get thrown off stage if you like. But if there aren't any final question, then it just leaves me to thank SLS, the team here who've done a fantastic job. I've seen this event now grow year on year, and it is extraordinary to see how much is coming into the market and the incredible sense of thrust here. I'm excited to meet you all, work with you all, and just very grateful to be here. Thanks to the team again, thanks to my team for all their hard work. Thank you for coming today. Enjoy the rest of SLS.